everyone. Dr. Margaret Paul here. Now is a really great time to practice creating your inner connection, your inner family, your connection with your soul, which you can call your inner child, your feeling self, your connection with your loving adult self that's in your heart and that takes loving action for yourself and connects you between your soul and your higher guidance, and your connection with your higher guidance, your source of love and wisdom and compassion and truth, and access to what would be loving action for you. When you create your inner family, you create a wonderful sense of fullness inside, a deep fullness of love within. And when you feel that, rather than feeling that emptiness, that hole within that so many people often feel, then when you're wanting to connect with loved ones, you're coming to share your love. You're all filled up with love from learning to take loving care of yourself and learning to create that inner family, that inner connection. And then you want to share love rather than trying to get love. When you abandon yourself, which so many of us have learned to do in many different ways, you create that sense of emptiness and aloneness inside. And then, of course, you're trying to get love, and you're not able to share love. You pull on others and try and have control on them to fill you up with the love that you're not giving yourself because of the various ways that you're abandoning yourself. Maybe you're abandoning yourself by judging yourself. Most of us have learned to judge ourselves in a lot of ways, and that can create that emptiness and aloneness. Or you're abandoning yourself by staying up in your head and ignoring your feelings, and that will also create that aloneness and emptiness. Or you're abandoning yourself by numbing your feelings out with various addictions, which of course most of us have learned to do, whether it's addictions to substances or processes, to avoid feeling our feelings. Or you abandon yourself by trying to get others to fill you, to love you, to make you feel like you're worthy, make you feel like you're okay. You're trying to get love because you're abandoning yourself in any or all of these various ways. So, like I said, now is a really, really great time to learn to create that inner family, that inner connection. So I'd like to do a visualization for you that will help you begin to learn to create that inner connection. So take some deep breaths and put your mind on your breath. Follow your breath as it goes in and out of your body. And as you breathe in into your body, scan your body for any physical feelings, any tension, tightness, aloneness, emptiness, numbness, fluttering. And just breathe into that and get present inside with those feelings, imagining that those feelings are a child inside of you who's been left alone and ignored, perhaps been judged, numbed out with various addictions, or given away to others. Because when we make others responsible for our feelings, for feeling okay, for feeling worthy, it's like we're giving that inner child away to others to define our worth, rather than learning to define that for ourselves, rather than learning how to love ourselves and take responsibility for our own feelings. So breathe into those physical feelings, because our emotions often show up physically. And just be with the feelings, sitting with them, keeping them company, being fully present with them, rather than avoiding them. And make a decision that for now, you want responsibility for anything that you might be doing, anything you're telling yourself, any way you're treating yourself that's causing anything less than peace inside. Breathing into that decision. And now put your hands on your heart and breathe into your heart. And open to learning about what you might be telling yourself, how you might be treating yourself, that's causing any feelings of anxiety or depression or guilt or shame or aloneness or emptiness or anger or numbness. Opening to learning rather than moving away from your feelings, rather than trying to protect against pain, rather than avoiding your feelings in any of the self-abandoning ways, rather than trying to control your feelings or trying to control others to take responsibility for your feelings. What you want to do now is open to learning about how you're treating yourself and what you're telling yourself. And imagine an older, wiser part of you, maybe 100 years from now, part of you that's very loving, very wise, very present, and just adores that inner child, that beautiful soul that's within you. And invite the love and compassion of that higher self into your heart by simply saying, I invite you into my heart. And breathe that in. And it's opening to learning and inviting in the love and compassion of your higher self that creates what we call in inner bonding the loving adult. This is the part of you that can take loving action for yourself. This is the part of you that opens to learning about what's true and what's loving. It's the wounded part of ourselves, our ego wounded self, who chooses the intention to protect against pain with various forms of controlling and self-abandoning behavior. It's that ego-wounded self who does anything to avoid responsibility for our feelings. And of course, everything we do to avoid that responsibility is self-abandoning and is creating so much of our pain, maybe creating our anxiety, depression, guilt, and shame, and anger, and aloneness, and numbness. We might also be creating our anxiety and depression if we're feeding ourselves junk food, just as junk thoughts can create our anxiety and depression, so can junk food, because that creates an imbalance in our gut that goes up into our brain and creates toxicity, which can create anxiety and depression. So eating ultra-processed foods, factory farm foods, junk foods, is another form of self-abandonment. And so right now, being open to learning, being present in your heart as a loving adult, if you're feeling anything other than peace inside, go inside and ask the feeling, ask the anxiety, depression, guilt, shame, anger, aloneness, numbness, emptiness, aloneness, what you're telling yourself, how you're treating yourself that may be causing these feelings right now. Ask the question, and then go inside to the feeling and let the feeling answer. What does that feeling want to tell you? I'm going to give you a little time right here just to tune into that. Tune in to what that inner child, that feeling part of you, wants to say to you. And perhaps it wants to say, you're putting pressure on me. You're telling me I'm not good enough, judging me. I never do anything right. I gotta be perfect. I gotta perform for you and others in order to be okay. I have to do everything right so that I can control how others feel about me. Of course I'm anxious. You're putting all this pressure on me. Of course I'm depressed. You ignore me. You never listen to me. You don't pay attention to me. You put me in a cage. You let that ego-wounded self be in control of me, thinking that you're keeping me safe by putting a lid on me, not letting me be who I am. Of course I feel alone and empty inside. When you keep ignoring me, when you numb me out with various addictions, with food, alcohol, drugs, or social media, or television, or sex, or pornography. All these ways you have of avoiding taking responsibility for me, listening to me. You never listen to me. Of course I feel guilt and shame when you constantly judge me. Of course I feel not good enough when you're always telling me that I have to perform right, and you're giving me away to other people and making them responsible for whether or not I'm okay. Every time you do that, you're rejecting me. So of course I feel alone and empty inside. Tune in and see if that beautiful soul inside, that inner child, that feeling part of you, is saying any of these things to you. And if that inner child is silent, it may be because he or she is so numbed out, so locked into a cage, and so not trusting of you to listen. But this is what needs to happen. If you want to heal, if you want to feel peaceful and alive inside, if you want to be happy, if you want to share love, if you want to be creative, you need to learn how to take responsibility for your feelings. You need to learn what you're doing that may be limiting you. And if you discover what you're telling yourself, how you're treating yourself, that's causing any of these painful feelings, go a little deeper. Go into that ego-wounded part of yourself, asking, why? Why are you treating the inner child this way? Why are you judging? Why are you ignoring or putting pressure on? What do you hope for? And see if you can tune into any of the false beliefs. Beliefs about having control over others. Beliefs that if you do everything right, maybe you can control getting approval. Beliefs that approval is what gives you your sense of worth, rather than learning to love yourself, giving you your sense of worth. There are hundreds of false beliefs inside, and it's going to take more than this moment or this visualization to discover them. But I'm hoping that by learning to do this, which is the inner bonding process, that you can begin to learn to take responsibility for your feelings, that you can begin to learn about the false beliefs that are limiting you, that are keeping you in pain. And now I'd like you to open to learning with that higher part of you. Imagine your higher self, that older, wiser part of you. And if you became aware of any false beliefs, ask that older, wiser part of you, what's true? Is it true that I'm not good enough? Is it true that I have to do everything right in order to get approval, in order to be okay? What's the truth about any of the beliefs that you've uncovered? And then ask, what would be loving to my inner child? What loving action do I need to take? And open and allow that information to pop into your mind. That information is always available when you are open to learning. Might not come right away if you're not used to tapping into your higher source, your higher guidance. But if you keep asking, what is loving? What is loving to me? What is true? You'll start to access that information. And if anything pops into your mind, imagine taking the loving action, whatever it is. Maybe it's just holding your inner child. Maybe it's eating better. Maybe it's taking a walk in nature. Maybe it's speaking your truth with somebody. Maybe it's just doing something fun. Maybe it's doing something creative. Maybe it's connecting on Zoom or Skype with a loved one. Maybe it's doing service, reaching out and helping somebody else. Maybe it's going to spend time with a partner, and instead of trying to get love, opening and allowing love to fill your being, and going to share love with your partner. And if you do take a loving action, then tune in. How do you feel? If you have actually taken a loving action, you're going to feel some relief inside. Our feelings let us know when we've taken a loving action and when we're abandoning ourselves. When we feel those painful feelings, that's our inner child letting us know we're abandoning ourselves. When we feel relief and full inside, when we feel some peace inside, then we know that we're loving ourselves. And we create this inner family by learning to stay present in our body rather than up in our head. Our ego-wounded self likes to focus on the past, ruminating on the past, projecting onto the future, which can create so much fear and anxiety. But the loving adult is right now, in this present moment. And we create our loving family when we're present in this moment with our feelings, when we want responsibility for them, when we're present in our heart, open to learning, when we're connecting with our higher guidance and open to the love and truth of our higher guidance. And with practice of these 6 steps of inner bonding, which you can find on our website at innerbonding.com, you can be present. You can learn to be present. Learn to be present with your feelings in your heart and with your higher guidance, so that that inner family is intact, so that you're flowing all the time between connecting with your guidance, connecting with your feelings, connecting with love in your heart, which fills you up with love to share with others. And you will find, if you start to practice inner bonding and take responsibility for learning to love yourself, you will find your relationships improving so much, because you will not need to go to others in order to get love and approval. You will connect with others in order to share your love. And that is the most wonderful experience in life. And so I hope that you are inspired to learn to practice inner bonding. It takes practice. This is not a one-time thing. This is something you want to build into your life in an ongoing way. Just as you've been practicing ignoring your feelings, trying to control, avoiding your feelings in any way you can, now you want to practice moving toward your feelings, embracing them with a deep desire to learn about what you're doing that may be creating them, and about what would be loving to you. This is life-changing, but it does take practice. So I hope you go on the Inner Bonding website, learn about inner bonding, and start to practice these 6 steps. They are truly life-changing. This week's episode is brought to you by the Inner Bonding Masterclass. When you join this membership, you'll be part of a compassionate and supportive community who understands what you're going through and who will help you throughout your healing journey. The Inner Bonding membership is created to provide laser coaching for you and others in the community who may be facing the same struggles, so that you can practice the inner bonding process more effectively and apply it to your life. You also get to vote on the topic that we will focus on in our bi-monthly masterclass. This way, you and the community will always learn about and get guidance on the topic you're requesting most. Go to innerbonding.com/members to join us. You can use the code BENEFIT to get a 10% discount on your registration at checkout. Again, go to innerbonding.com/members.